Okay, in this video I want to talk about fear. And I wish the first day of junior high or maybe even high school or college that somebody told me this, but all learning involves fear. And for the most part it's true. When you're moving from ignorance to education, it can be scary to take the step forward because you don't know what's coming next. And in some senses it can be exciting, but a lot of times that creates anxiety and worry about what's happening. And I want to talk about that in regards to study abroad, but I want to use the analogy of learning to drive again. Learning to drive is a scary proposition for the student, but also a lot of times the parents. And if they're the teacher, same thing. But it can be a nerve-wracking experience for all involved because the person learning for the first time is ignorant of how to do it. What it takes, what the motor skills, depth perception, how to handle the vehicle, how to move forward or backward or in whatever direction they need to, basic rules of the road, what to do with other drivers. All these things play into a lot of fear and anxiety about learning this process. Study abroad is the same way, because study abroad has multiple steps, and there are, again, the credits that you have to think about. How am I going to get those together? Is the destination right? Is this the best trip for me? There's so many options. Am I picking the right one? And there's also, and usually the biggest one that I find, is the money. How am I going to pay for this? How am I going to get through everything, because it must be so much more expensive. And what locks most people out about fear is, or what locks most people out of study abroad is usually fear and ignorance, not anything that's really based on reality. And so you need to understand that in this process, you're going to be afraid. This is something that is completely new territory. But like learning to drive, was it worth it going through all the steps that it took and the classes and the courses and things you had to take and that really scary exam with to get your license? Was it worth it? The answer for most people is yes. They love the freedom of being able to walk out the door, get in the car, and go from where they are to where they want to go. Study abroad is much the same way, but you're going to have to deal with the fear. You're going to start out not knowing, not being able to get yourself in the initial parts where you need to go. So you need to start working with the people who can help you and finding resources. And unlike driving, there's not simple set down rules. There aren't a lot of places you can go and take study abroad classes. Some universities and colleges offer them, of course, but unless you're at one of those places, it's not easy to find. And that's one of the things this website is working on, is showing people how to actually do the study abroad process and taking you from being fearful about it to being educated and saying, and giving you practice and steps and ideas about what direction to go. And so in doing that, hopefully the education will take the fear out of things. And that's what happens as you move with learning. Education builds confidence, and it's what kills fear of what you're doing. It moves you forward in a way that shows you what you can do and where you can go. Because again, looking back at driving, do you really have a lot of hang-ups about getting in a car and driving from point A to point B? Most people who have done it for a while would say no. But it was only because they took all those steps to educate themselves on how to do it. And study abroad is much the same way. It's just asking the questions and putting all the pieces of the puzzle together. So in that, if you can break through the fear and recognize it for what it is and just keep moving forward, that's really the key.